It's the late 90s. Nintendo has made plenty of successful 2D Mario games, but they've just crossed over into the next dimension. Literally. Now, 3D Mario is real in Super Mario 64, and he's taken the world of gaming over. A pioneer of the 3D platformer genre, everyone was eager to try Mario when he's truly free to express his run and jump abilities in every direction. But that was almost 30 years ago. So long that the 3D platformer genre had time to grow and become more refined, and honestly, so long that the genre kind of took its course, not being nearly as popular as it once was. Super Mario 64 was a beast in the gaming world at that time, but shouldn't its time in the spotlight be over? Well, it turns out that there's one way to play this game that's kept it more relevant today than any other game from back then. Speedrunning. The activity that keeps single-player games replayable endlessly. Oh, you beat this game already. We'll beat it again, but faster. And faster. And faster. It doesn't stop. And Mario 64 has an especially unique appeal in the speedrunning scene that has pushed it to arguably be the most popular speedrunning game. You can point at games like Minecraft that have a popular speedrunning scene because Minecraft is a really popular casual game. Mario 64 is a popular speedrunning game because people play it for its speedruns. In fact, right now on speedrun.com, it's the third most actively played speedrun game. That's for current day speedruns. Guess what? It's the only game not from this century for that long. I want to answer one question for this video. Why is Super Mario 64 still played? Well, for one, it's retained its high level of visibility throughout the years, despite being so old, because it may be the game that most people think of when the term speedrunning is used. There are plenty of streamers who play a large selection of games, but when they want to dip their toes into the pool of speedrunning, it's no surprise that SM64 is the first game that they go to. Ludwig, Mizkif, Boxbox, Papa Platt, Imru, Esfand, just to rattle off a few. These streamers are not Mario streamers and probably don't consider themselves to be speedrunners. Super Mario 64 is just the perfect game to give speedrunning a try. And if streamers are playing the game, at least some viewers are going to be motivated to give it a try as well.
Whoa, you did that so fast!
There are also many personalities who have Mario 64 as their main game. You can easily point out the top world record grinding speedrunners as having their own audiences, but what's especially surprising is that you can still find some of the most popular Mario speedrunners who are just grinding to get a personal best. There's even creators who spend a great deal of time just talking about Mario 64's speedrun history, like Carl Jobst or Summoning Salt. For some reason, the speedrunning scene for Mario 64 is especially watchable to viewers in so many aspects. So many clips have been spread around, almost universally understood from a speedrunning perspective because of Mario 64's impact on speedrunning culture. So there's plenty of exposure to Mario 64 despite its old age, but because it's so old, shouldn't its accessibility to new players be pretty limited as well? The game comes on old hardware that not a lot of people have anymore. How could this old game regularly get new players? Well, because new runners don't usually play on the original hardware. It can, and there's certainly outlets where they can obtain the ancient technology that they'd need, but new players usually enter the scene by much more accessible means. You might think that players generally flock to the Super Mario 3D All-Stars version on the Nintendo Switch, which some do, although it's not ideal. The really accessible version has been playing the game through emulators on a player's very own personal computer. If you're looking to speedrun, the Nintendo Switch version just doesn't have some of the glitchiness that comes on the original release of the game. That glitchiness in particular can mostly be attributed to Mario 64's most well-known trick, BLJs. That one trick cuts the barrier of entry for new players from requiring 70 stars to beat the game to 16. Very manageable stars to be learned in a very manageable time frame. The 16-star speedrun category is so accessible that it really has become the gateway category to the game's entire speedrunning scene. The 16-star category can be reasonably completed in under 20 minutes, making it a less intimidating starting point for beginners. With the abundant resources provided for speedrunners like YouTube tutorials or detailed websites, Wikipedia, a new player can learn the whole category at a beginner level and be ready for runs in maybe an hour or two. And then if they want, they could stay in that category, constantly practicing and upgrading the hardest strats for 10,000 hours for a chance at becoming the best there ever was.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Also, the glitchiness of the game is so important, it deserves to be addressed as a category on its own. Many people tend to point out glitches today as flaws in game design that hinder the player's experience, and maybe adding some comical value to the experience, but generally being a net negative to the player. In Super Mario 64, being a pioneer of the 3D platformer genre, where a character can have 360-degree movement in a 3D space, is absolutely filled with glitch potential all throughout the game. Talking about the surfaces in the game, creating invisible walls, would take a while on its own. But this is primarily a speedrunning video, and in speedrunning, that glitchiness looks like an old mine that's secretly filled with gold nuggets, ready to be salvaged into something greater. Thanks to this game's primitive nature, you can BLJ to supersonic speed. You can use bombs to zip around and clip through walls that are in your way. You can expertly use glitchy wall kicks to skip an entire minute-long carpet ride and grab a star. The emergent gameplay that happens when the player uses this strange nature of the game's engine leads to some insane and really exciting tricks, further boosting the appeal to new players. If you can pull off a trick that's not intended in casual play, it really helps make you feel like you've entered the speedrunning scene. The extremely unique platforming gameplay that comes out of this engine is what a lot of people are actually really looking for when they enter the Super Mario 64 landscape. In fact, I'd be lying if I said that only speedrunners are enjoying the game's unique nature. Out of this game has spawned an entirely massive ROM hack scene. People are putting Mario and his weird mechanics from Super Mario 64 into entirely new worlds. Some ROM hacks introduce entirely new mechanics that push the boundaries of what Mario 64's engine can do, offering fresh challenges for veteran players. ROM hacks range from simple retextures to complete overhauls of the game, offering something for basically everyone, whether they're interested in casual play or competitive speedrunning. And this one's new. If making these levels seems more exciting, but sounds too intimidating to try and learn how, there's even a very popular ROM hack called Mario Builder 64, where you can make levels and upload them like it's Mario Maker. But in this engine, ROM hacks are wild. There's even plenty of co-op support in a lot of ROM hacks, making the original childhood dream of Super Mario 64 multiplayer playing alongside Luigi or whoever, honestly, a reality. All right, final big point. Guess what it is? Guess what it is? It's speedrunning. Yeah, I've talked about how streamers get into the game through that. The accessibility of its speedrunning nature and the wonky mechanics of the game that allows for an insane speedrun. But I haven't really expressed once you've passed that barrier that puts you in the actual speedrunning scene, because there's a lot there. The history of Mario 64 speedrunning is long. As I've said, it's the oldest game on the most active speedrunning list for a while, and the game doesn't have a lot of RNG compared to others, meaning you're not really getting lucky when you claim a top spot on the leaderboards. You're using all the knowledge gathered from almost 3 decades, practicing incredibly hard tricks to absurd consistency to attempt to be the best there ever was. So over the years, the competitive scene for that spot and each category is still so regularly changing that the skill ceiling seems to constantly be raised. That or you're Suigi and you're kind of a god at all of them, but still, it's still changing. And the friendly competition that forms between the runners adds an extra layer of excitement. Players love to point out when they get a new personal best that even if they didn't get world record, they can at least say that they bopped another runner. You don't have to be a top runner to do this. For instance, during the making of this video, I got a 50, 08, and 70 star, putting me ahead of Squeaks. So I'll get destroyed. And the path to improvement to get to these points is more documented and has more resources than potentially any other video game's path. There's Wikipedia, basically a Wikipedia on everything you might want to learn for every speedrunning moment in the game. There's a specific ROM hack for speedrunners, Usomune. It uses the base game, but just adds features that allows you to practice whatever you want in the game with ease. Save states, access to any stage, and extensive on-screen tools to monitor and improve your gameplay. I've been getting in a nice practice session in it as B-roll for this entire video. There's extensive videos displaying many different ways of getting stars with increasing speed and difficulty. There's even insane frame-by-frame controlled runs called tasks that display Mario at a seemingly optimal performance. Out of human possibility in most cases, but still attempted by humans to get as close as possible to it. But all that is a bit overwhelming, especially for a new player who wants to dip their feet in the world of speedrunning. A world having a community that is very strange to see, first because it comes out of a very old game. There's a few somewhat older games that have pretty large communities, but this is a single player game. There's no esport bringing everyone together, which really makes this game an anomaly. There's collaboration in the form of in-person events, where SM64 is pretty much always a staple where speedrunning is involved. There's charity marathons and plenty of community races. There's plenty of discords, forums, ROM hacks, tutorials, etc. that show how wide and diversely talented the entire SM64 community is. So many people come together in an incredibly welcoming environment, making a single-player game not really feel so single-player anymore. And that's it. I didn't have much. The script is done. The point is, this game is like the gateway to speedrunning in general. So if you want to do that, or if you have any interest in speedrunning at all, honestly, I'd look into this. It's pretty good. Or you can speedrun any game. I'm not even on script anymore. I'm just talking. Okay, I'm done. All right, see ya. Goodbye.